Hi, today in this session we will be configuring our certificate server to automatically issue server certificates to any systems that join our domain. And how we'll be doing that, we need to access some of the certificate servers as well as group policy in order to enable that. So right now I'm logged into my management server. Um, and from here, I will go to Administrative Tools, and I want to launch Group Policy Editor, which doesn't appear I have installed on the system. So let's go ahead and jump over to Server Manager, and let's install that. So let's go Add Roles and Features. We'll go Next. We'll go ahead and check the radio box for role-based or feature-based installation, and click Next. And then I want to install it on my Manage 1 server, which is the server I'm using to manage my environment. So go ahead and select Manage 1 from the list. Go ahead and click Next. And we want to look for those tools. I believe they're under the Remote Server Administration Tool section. Well, actually, no, they're not there. They're right here, Group Policy Management. So I need to install that particular feature. Go ahead and say Next and install. So that'll take a few moments here to install. And then once that completes, we'll go ahead and launch it and go ahead and configure everything up. All right, so that installed successfully. So we'll go ahead and close this window down. And then we're going to jump back over to Tools and Server Manager. And now we have this new option of Group Policy Management. I'll go ahead and click that. All right, and go ahead and expand that out. So that's going to show our forests, any subdomains we may have, sites, and etc. In case of this environment, since this is a brand new domain, it don't have any subdomains underneath it, and I also don't have any sites or anything like that configured. And I just have the kind of the default containers and organizational units displayed here. So one thing I can do, I can create, say, another organizational unit, and then I can group my servers underneath that. So say if I want to control and only have that policy for the certificates issued to a particular organizational unit and restrict to certain servers, I can actually apply that policy to just a certain organizational unit. And for purposes of this, I think well, actually, let's just do a domain-wide to start off. But you can kind of extrapolate the steps we do here to apply it to a particular OU at a later time. So what we're going to do on our main domain, on the primary domain, so at the top level, we're going to just go ahead and say right-click. We're going to create a GPO in this domain and link it here. So that'll link that GPO at that top level. So it'll be a domain-wide policy that we're going to implement. And we'll name this Issue Server Certificates. Well, actually, let's say Computer Certificates. And we'll say OK. All right, so that just goes ahead and creates that blank policy there. And if you're not familiar with this view here, so once you click on the policy over here on the right hand side, you see some things as far as the location where that policy is linked. You can see what permissions are applied to it. So by default, all authenticated users can read this policy. Let's say, for example, if I want to restrict that to certain users or certain groups or certain computers, I can modify those policies. Modify those security permissions here. And then we have some additional filtering you can do with WMI down here at the bottom if you needed to filter that way. For purposes of this, I'm going to leave everything in the default. So you get details, you can see a little bit more information. Here in settings, you see there's no computer configuration or user configurations currently configured on this. So we're going to go ahead and right-click on it and hit Edit. And then this will pop up another window, the Group Policy Management Editor. And so since we're trying to issue certificates to the computers in the environment, we don't need to worry about the user configuration section, so we'll just collapse that down. And then we're going to start expanding these out. So let's expand out policies and expand out Windows settings, and then expand out security settings, since the certificate kind of fall under that security blanket. And there's a public key policy a little bit further down. So you have a lot of different options here that you can enable and things like that related to certificates. For our purposes, we're going to look at this automatic certificate request settings. We're going to go ahead, right click on that and say new, and then automatic certificate request. That pops up another wizard. And so using automatic certificate requests, administrator can specify which type of certificates can be automatically requested by a computer. To continue, click next. We'll just say next. So in our case, we're concerned with computer. So you can create your own custom templates that can be available here, but since we just have the ones that are built by default out of the box, we only have these 4 options. So right now we want to concern with computer. So go ahead, select computer option, say next, and finish. And that is pretty much it for that. So what will happen is that when systems will negotiate with the domain controller and figure out, okay, who are the issuing certificate systems, and when those systems come online, they will automatically submit a request to the certificate server to get a client and server authentication certificate, and then once that's approved, it will be available on the servers. So go ahead and say okay on that, and go ahead and close that down. So if I go ahead and refresh the screen here, we should see those settings listed here. So you can see the settings I just configured. So it's public key policy, automatic certificate request settings. So that now that policy is enabled on the domain, but it will typically take a little bit of time for the servers to actually get that policy update and then actually try to get that certificate from the certificate server. So what I'm going to do to try to speed that up a little bit, so let's go ahead and open up MMC. So MMC console, and here I want to add a few options. So if you click on file and go to add remove snap-in, I want to add the certificate snap-in. Go ahead and say add, and then for this purpose I want the computer account version of that. So I'll go ahead and check the computer account radio box, say next, and finish. Since in this case it's for my local computer, but say if you're doing this for another system, you could have typed in the name of that computer and go say okay. All right, so now I'm looking at the personal certificates that are currently issued to this system. So right now what I can see, I only have a single certificate, and that certificate was actually a self-signed certificate that the system generated itself, right? So I don't currently have that certificate per the policy that we just configured. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and do a GP update / force. So GP update, that's like a group policy update and I'm forcing the system to go and try to update its policy right now, as opposed to waiting to its regular recycle and refresh interval that's configured for the domain. So let's go ahead and run that. And if all things goes well, the system should get that new policy that we just configured to tell it to, hey, go and request a certificate from the certificate servers. And then within a few minutes, hopefully we should see a new certificate should appear in this list here. So let's see if anything has happened yet. So yeah, there we go. So it already happened. It happened pretty quick. So it got that new policy, and then it went ahead and discovered my enterprise-wide certificate server that I had configured, and it went ahead and requested that certificate. So that we see it has the same name as the one that was already there, but as you can see, it was issued by a different entity. In this case, it was issued by my CS1 enterprise certificate authority that we previously configured. All right. And you see this for client authentication as well as server authentication. So hopefully this has been helpful and useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.